Folks, I have to tell you something. Something happened this week that the drive-by media would very much like you to sleep through. The United States government, your government, has suspended all operations in an entire Mexican state. Not a city, not a neighborhood, an entire state. Michoacan, gone dark. American government activities shut down. Embassies, consulates, personnel, all of it pulled back. And the reason given? Due to a threat against American interests. A threat against American interests in Mexico, right next door, our neighbor, the country we share nearly 2,000 miles of border with, the country we send billions of dollars to in trade every single year. The country that our State Department has, for decades, been telling you is a great partner and a great friend and a wonderful ally in the region. Now I ask you, and I ask you sincerely, if you had a next-door neighbor and one day you woke up and said, "Honey, I've suspended all activities in Dave's yard because of a credible threat to our interests from Dave's yard," would you maybe reconsider the annual block party? Would you perhaps put a slightly bigger lock on the fence gate? Because that is exactly what we are talking about here. Michoacan isn't some distant province. This is cartel country. Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the CJNG, one of the most violent criminal organizations on planet Earth. And the United States government right now, today, has decided it is not safe to operate there. Let that sink in. I'm Rick LeBow. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. All right, my friends, let's talk about this. Because this is one of those stories where the facts, just the plain, boring, dry facts, are more alarming than anything I could dress them up with. The United States has suspended government operations in Michoacan, Mexico, due to, and this is the official language, a threat against American interests. Now, the State Department puts out what they call security alerts. And this is not a travel advisory. This is not the government saying, "Hey, travelers, maybe skip the Morelia food tour this spring." This is the government saying our own people cannot safely operate there. Our own people. And what's fascinating to me, and I use fascinating loosely because what I really mean is infuriating, is the timing of this. We are in the middle of a serious national conversation about Mexico, about the cartels, about whether these organizations should be designated as terrorist groups. The Trump administration has pushed that designation. There has been back and forth with the Mexican government about it. And right in the middle of all of that, right now, we are pulling our people back from an entire state. Now, the Mexican government, God bless them, will tell you they have this under control. The president of Mexico will get up in front of cameras and tell you that Mexico is sovereign and Mexico handles its own affairs and Mexico does not need the United States lecturing anyone about anything, thank you very much. And that sounds very dignified, very proud, very nationalist. I appreciate the spirit of it, I really do. And yet here we are, pulling our people out of Michoacan because the cartel runs the place. Let me give you a little geography here, for those of you in Rio Linda. Michoacan is on Mexico's Pacific coast. It is the home turf of the CJNG, which is not a radio station, though given how much they broadcast their violence on social media, maybe it should be. These are the people running fentanyl into the United States. These are the people who have been responsible, directly or indirectly, for tens of thousands of American overdose deaths every single year. These are the people who behead rivals and hang them from overpasses as a business communication strategy. And the United States government's response, for years, under multiple administrations, has been to essentially treat the cartel problem as a Mexican problem, a sovereignty issue. Something the Mexican government needs to handle. With our money and our patience and our citizens dying in the streets. Now look, I want to be fair here. What the Trump administration is doing with this suspension is actually notable. Because what they are doing, whether the press corp notices or not, and I assure you most of them won't, is publicly acknowledging that the cartels have effectively captured a Mexican state. That is a significant thing to say out loud. The State Department doesn't do that casually. There are 1,000 diplomatic reasons not to say it, and yet they said it. They said it. Now, what does this mean practically? Well, my friends, think about it this way. When you suspend government operations in a place, you are doing one of a few things. You're either protecting your people from an imminent threat, which is obviously the right call, or you're sending a message to the host country that things are not acceptable. Or, and this is the one I want you to think about, you are laying the groundwork for something. Because here is the thing about the cartel terrorist designation. If these organizations are designated as foreign terrorist organizations, and they operate in a state where the United States government cannot safely operate, then you have, legally, diplomatically, and strategically, a very different set of options available to you. A very different set of options. Now I'm not here to tell you we're about to send the 82nd Airborne into Michoacan. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that the administration is not issuing statements like this for no reason. These people know what they're doing. And the drive-by media, which spent 4 years telling you that the border was fine and migration was a complex issue requiring nuanced policy responses, bless their hearts, is going to completely miss what is actually happening here. What is happening here is a slow, methodical, deliberate strategy of pressuring Mexico. Economically, through tariffs, diplomatically, through statements like this one, and eventually, if none of that works, well, let's just say the cartel's days of operating with impunity on the American side of that equation are numbered. And here is the thing that really gets me. I have been sitting here for years, listening to the political class on both sides of the aisle treat Mexico like it's a problem we just have to accept, like the cartels are a weather pattern. Oh, it's unfortunate. It's complex. There are socioeconomic factors. You have to understand the history. These communities have been marginalized. No. These are international criminal enterprises that are killing Americans. Every day, in American cities, in American suburbs, in American schools. And the fact that they operate on the other side of an imaginary line that we call a border does not make them not our problem. It makes them exactly our problem because they have decided to make us their market, their corridor, and their victim. When American government personnel cannot safely operate in a neighboring country's state because of a non-state criminal organization, that is not a law enforcement issue. That is a national security issue. And it should be treated as one. Now, there is a certain crowd, and you know who they are. They congregate on certain cable channels and certain faculty lounges that will tell you that any muscular American response to this situation is imperialism, that it violates Mexican sovereignty, that we need to work with the Mexican government through proper channels and international frameworks, and, oh, have you considered a committee? A committee. Maybe we can form a task force. Maybe we can get the United Nations involved. Maybe we can get some strongly worded letters drafted. Meanwhile, the fentanyl keeps flowing and Americans keep dying, and the CJNG keeps doing whatever it wants because nobody has ever made them stop. You know, there's a reason the cartels have gotten as powerful as they have. It's not complicated. It is the simplest explanation in the world. Nobody stopped them. For decades, nobody stopped them. The Mexican government is either unwilling or unable, and I'll let you decide which, to stop them. And the United States government, for most of the last 30 years, decided that was okay, that this was Mexico's thing to handle. Well, That is no longer the position of this administration. And that is why this suspension matters. It's not just about the safety of American personnel in Michoacan, though of course that matters enormously. It's about drawing a line. It's about saying, publicly, officially, on the record, that the status quo is unacceptable, that a cartel-run Mexican state on our southern border is not something the United States of America is prepared to quietly accept as the new normal. It shouldn't be. And don't doubt me on this. When the history of this period is written, this moment, this suspension, this statement is going to look like a turning point. Either the point where things changed or the point where we had a chance to make things change and didn't. I know which one I'm betting on. All right, let's get to the roundup, my friends. Rapid fire. We've got several things I want to get to today. First up, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, there is a name that just keeps giving. A Senate panel has obtained a forensic copy of the good doctor's cell phone, his COVID-era cell phone, and the timing on this is not coincidental because the Senate is also moving to hold Fauci in contempt of Congress. Now, let me just remind you what we are talking about here. This is the man who ran the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for what felt like approximately 400 years. This is the man who told you masks don't work, then told you they do, then told you you might need two. This is the man whose agency funded, or very carefully funded adjacent to, with sophisticated funding architecture designed so that nobody could quite draw a straight line, research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And when Congress wanted to ask him about it, he had a remarkable series of memory lapses. Well, the phone doesn't have memory lapses. The phone remembers everything. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, God bless that man, has been on this for years. And the drive-by media spent those years telling you he was a crank, a conspiracy theorist, that this was all debunked. Lab leak was a crazy right-wing fantasy. Dr. Fauci was a hero. Fauci was science. To question Fauci was to question science itself. And now they're pulling his phone records ahead of a contempt vote. My friends, I said it then and I will say it now. Don't doubt me. The answers are on that phone. I don't know what's on it. I can't tell you what the texts say, but I can tell you that a man with nothing to hide does not fight this hard against handing over his phone. And whatever is on it, the American people deserve to know, because the COVID pandemic did not fall from the sky. It had an origin, and the people responsible for figuring out what that origin was had a lot of motivation to make sure you never found out. We will be watching this one very closely. Next, and I love this story, I genuinely love it. Our friends on the left in Wisconsin have a small problem. It seems that the socialist frontrunner in the Wisconsin gubernatorial race has some old social media posts that have resurfaced. And what do these posts contain? Complaints about Thanksgiving, about Halloween, about fireworks on the 4th of July? The 4th of July, folks. Now, I know, we've seen this before. The left has been at war with American holidays for years now. This is not new. But there is something uniquely clarifying about a gubernatorial candidate who has apparently spent her free time being personally offended by fireworks. The booms, the noise, the unexamined nationalism. This is your coalition, Democrats. This is who you are running. A woman who sees the 4th of July and experiences it as trauma instead of joy. Who looks at Thanksgiving and sees, I don't know, whatever they've decided Thanksgiving means now in the grievance curriculum, and posts about it, angrily, repeatedly, and then has the absolute brass to stand in front of Wisconsin voters and ask them to make her their governor? Wisconsin, a state with a decent number of people who like grilling out on the 4th of July and don't particularly feel guilty about it. And the left wonders why they have a working class problem. They wonder why the average man, the guy at the plant, the woman at the diner, looks at the Democrat Party and feels like it's not for him. It's not a mystery. It's on her social media. And third, because we cannot let this go by, the news out of North Carolina's largest school district, which has hired a transgender elementary school teacher without informing the parents of the children who will be in that classroom. You know, I've said for years that the left's political strategy fundamentally depends on moving faster than parents can react. You do the thing, you put the thing in place, and then by the time parents figure out what happened, you tell them it's already done, and objecting to it makes them bigots. That's the play. It has always been the play, and here it is again in a North Carolina elementary school. Parents whose young children, are going to be in this classroom were not informed, not consulted. The school district simply made the decision and moved forward. These are not the school district's children. These are parents' children. And the idea that a school district gets to make decisions of this nature without telling the people who actually own the responsibility for these kids, that is a fundamental inversion of the proper relationship between parents, schools, and government. The left will tell you this is about protecting the teacher from discrimination. And I would tell the left that parents have rights too, and those rights do not disappear because they are inconvenient to your agenda. The pushback on this, I predict, will be fierce. North Carolina is not San Francisco, and the parents there are going to let the school district know exactly how they feel about decisions made in secret about their kids' classrooms. All right, my friends, before I let you go today, let me bring it all back to the thread I see running through every single one of these stories. What connects Michoacan and Fauci's phone and that Wisconsin socialist and North Carolina's school board? It is the same fundamental problem. Institutions, government institutions, educational institutions, scientific institutions, media institutions that have decided they do not owe you an explanation. They do not owe you transparency. They do not owe you a vote or a notification or a conversation. They will suspend operations in a Mexican state and hope you don't notice. They will let a public health official stonewall Congress for years and call anyone who objects a conspiracy theorist. They will hire whoever they want in your child's classroom and not tell you. And they will run a socialist for governor who thinks fireworks are a hate crime and expect you to pull the lever anyway. And you know what? For a long time, it worked because people were busy. People were working and raising kids and living their lives, and they trusted that the institutions were basically on the level. Those days are over. The American people are paying attention now, and the people running these institutions are slowly, painfully, in some cases very publicly, discovering what happens when you spend decades assuming the public will never actually look closely at what you're doing. They're looking now, and that, my friends, is the most important development in American public life in my lifetime. Not any one candidate, not any one election. The fact that Americans have stopped taking the word of self-appointed experts on faith. The fact that they are demanding to see the phone, demanding to know who's in the classroom, demanding to know why the American government can't operate next door, that is a healthy country finding its voice again. I'm Rick LeBow. This has been Rush Hour. Same time tomorrow if they let us back on.